Greetings and welcome back to this, the third part in a fuck knows how many part series wherein I babble about my books. Today we have The Mirror's Truth up to bat. This was the third novel I wrote and also the third novel to get published. It is the sequel to Beyond Redemption. And so let's dive into that first. So Beyond Redemption was published in, I think it was June of 2015. I immediately, just knowing that I was going to be a successful author, hurled myself into writing a sequel, which was The Mirror's Truth, and another standalone novel set in the same world, which later became Swarm and Steel. Swarm and Steel we'll talk about in another video because that's a whole different thing. So I wrote The Mirror's Truth. I think I smashed out the first copy in about 3 months. I was largely living off the advance from the first book and in a mad panic. I think I had left the music business by then. So yeah, I was self-unemployed. Complete bum. Sales of Beyond Redemption flopped despite the fairly decent reviews. And though the editor at Harper Voyager liked The Mirror's Truth, there was just no way that they were going to pick up book 2 when book 1 was not selling well at all. It's a business. So the publisher passed on book 2, and there I was with a sequel written and no idea what to do with it because I didn't have a publisher. I had spent the last maybe 2 or 3 years trying to build an online presence at my agent's suggestion, chatting with other authors and stuff. So I had met a pile of self-published authors, Dirk Ashton, Ben Galley, Rob J. Hayes, a bunch of others, some of whom I don't know anymore. They've sort of disappeared. But these guys all somehow managed to make it look easy. So I decided I was going to self-publish The Mirror's Truth. The same group of people, they offered a lot of advice, made suggestions on how to do this. I started learning the whole Amazon KDP self-publishing platform, trying to figure out layout of text and for paperbacks, ebooks, all that stuff. Good fun. And I needed cover art. I had never previously hired an artist for cover art because why would I? And so I started looking around and asking about artists. And my wife said that her brother's wife's nephew was an artist, to which I'm pretty sure I rolled my eyes. Like, great. And she said that I should try talking to him because he was really good. So desperate and not knowing anyone else, I reached out to this artist I'd never heard of, and I think he was doing corporate work at the time. Anyway, so his name was John Anthony DiGiovanni. I might be butchering the pronunciation of that last name because my wife rolls her eyes at me every time I try and say it. And we talked. He did some rough sketches that were really cool. And so I hired him to do the cover art for The Mirror's Truth. He also came back and did the cover art for Ghosts of Tomorrow, which I will talk about in the next video and maybe the next. I don't know. We'll see. He did this incredible job. It turned out he was an insanely talented artist. In fact, after I think it was Ghosts of Tomorrow, the only reason I didn't hire him to do more cover art was because I could no longer afford him. His career had massively taken off. Last I heard, he was doing art for, I think, Disney. He was, I think, involved in the Barbie movie somehow, maybe doing concept art. Not super sure. Anyway, he's doing really well. awesome dude, fantastic artist, really nice guy, great to work with. Wish I could still afford him. So yeah, I mentioned I had to do everything, learn how to do all the text layout and stuff. I suppose I'm okay at focusing. I can get a little monomaniacal about stuff, and I do have some control freak tendencies. Just ask Clayton Snyder, and he'll tell you. So I really I enjoyed learning how to do all this stuff. And each book since then, hopefully, I have gotten a little better at doing this. Who knows? So in 2016, I released The Mirror's Truth. The book sold well, got great reviews. It won a Stabby, that's Reddit, our fantasy Stabby Award for Best Self-Published Novel of 2016, which was very cool. But despite all this, for me, like on an emotional level, this was all very much tied up with failure. I did not want to be a self-published author. I thought I was going to be a, traditionally published author. I didn't know anything about self-publishing. And with the sort of rejection of book 2, I was very much sort of depressed about that, drinking too much, and generally probably being a shit. Anyway, all of that kind of ties into why it took me so long to finally get around to writing book 3, A War to End All, because I really just I couldn't find the motivation to go back to that world. It was too fucking depressing for me. Eventually, we got that sorted, and we'll talk about that in another video. I am, however, stubborn as fuck. And so while The Mirror's Truth was selling and Swarm and Steel, which landed a small publishing deal, and we'll talk about that in another video. While all that was happening, I threw myself into writing another book, which would turn into Blackstone Heart, which is the story I had been trying to tell and wanting to tell since the 90s. I think in 93 or 94 was the first time I tried to write a novel, and that attempt was called Blackstone Heart. But again, that's another video. We'll get to that later. So The Mirror's Truth, I went into that with a very different idea than Beyond Redemption. Beyond Redemption was me playing with the world and the magic system and sort of seeing where I could push things. The plot was fairly laughably simple: kidnap kid, become God. And that was, about it. The plot to Mirror's Truth, I'm not even sure there is one. It was really, I wanted to sort of explore the characters. I wanted to dig into the characters a little more deeply, and I didn't really need a plot for that. Basically, no, that's a spoiler, so I'm not going to talk about that. We'll let that go. Go read the book. Yeah. So, like I said, it was about the characters. It was about the fallout, how they dealt with the fallout from book 1. And how are we doing here? 8 minutes and change. That's pretty good. So if you're enjoying these videos, I don't know, let me know. Okay, I'm going to go write some shit and maybe cook some dinner. It's probably about that time. Hope you're all doing well, and